Good morning, guys. How are you? I already see a few in the chat. I see Like an Eagle. Welcome. I got your topic, sir. And Northbound Believer and Rick Bowser. Good morning to you guys. So good to see you. Go ahead and get any other topics in there. We'll get started soon. I'm feeling pretty good today. Trying not to be crazy today. I think I was in a weird mood the last time. I'm going to try to keep it a little more even keel today. It's been a good week, though. I apologize for not being here last week. Mama chose Joy, good morning. Yeah, last week, it's just a typical weekend. I had to be with family somewhere else and was not able to do the live stream. It's just how it goes. I have a life just like all the rest of you guys. Sometimes it gets in the way. Rick Bowser, you say, where did Cain's wife come from? Genesis 4:16. I thought the only people in the world at that time were Adam, Eve, Cain after the death of Abel. Okay, that's a good one. Let me put that on my topic list. Okay. So actually, guys, I cleared the topic list from last week. I went ahead and just cleared the slate because it was 2 weeks old and we all probably are thinking about different things we're interested in. And so I just went ahead and cleared the list. I guess I should put that up here. Let's move the chat up a little bit. And then here's my screen. You can see the topics. Putting first Rick's topic. And we will get others. Lindsay Ball, good morning. Welcome. You say you have a topic. Go ahead. We will get to it this morning. I do have a couple announcements that I do want to make before we start, but I'll do that right before we start the topics. I'm moving too fast with my coffee. I'm going to be done too quick, so I'll have to switch to water, and then I won't be as energetic, but sorry about that. So Lindsay Ball, I see your mention of your topic. How was Enoch and Elijah taken to heaven if only the Son of Man ascended into heaven? Did their souls only go? That's a good one. And I have addressed that before somewhere, but I do have information, so that's a good thing. We can do it. Whoop. I think that the way I'll word this is, were Enoch and Elijah taken to heaven? That'll just fit my screen a little better, so I'll keep it shortened there, but we'll answer that. Rafa Sieber, good morning. It's good to have you. And Come Alive and Judy, it's good to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining. Yeah, go ahead and get some topics in for the next few minutes. Hope everybody had a great week. If you did something fun this week or interesting, let us know about it in the comments. Come Alive, say hi to your wife for us. Thank you for joining. I'm glad she's up. Cornelius, Stacia, good morning. Good to see you guys. So good to see you guys every week. I say it probably every time now, but I just love seeing your names pop in again and again. Just really care about you guys. I have fun with this, so thank you so much for being consistent, because it doesn't just help me, it helps everyone else on the chat and that's participating. I've heard that actually a number of times now, how many of you guys just love even the chat conversation. You are impressed with the people, each of you that are in there talking and saying things. I think yeah, I'm glad I'm glad it's not me, but I'm glad you all are getting that value, and I'm really thankful to God for it, for you guys. Superfluity of naughtiness. You say, is it possible that the Satan of the Old and New Testament has been cast in the lake of fire already, and that nowadays we are dealing with other new demons, Satan, evil forces? Well, let's make that a topic. I like that. Is it possible that the Satan of the Old Testament? I'll put it this way. Superfluity. Let's see. So let's put your topic up. Is Satan already in the lake of fire? Yep, that's a good one. Good morning to you, Cornelius. I think I may have said you already, but Chris G, good to see you, sir. And you guys, you can't down the topics, okay? The topic's a topic, whether it comes from you or someone else, and whether you agree with it or not, it's a good topic. So let's do it. But I appreciate all of you commenting. Lindsay Ball, you said an interesting thing here. Let's see. I got it up on the screen, but you said, I went to Satan theme park, Alton Towers. Look up Wicker Man. It's literally Baphomet. I don't think I know about this. So I'm about to do a search. I'm afraid of what I'm going to find. I'm going to look this up real quick while y'all are finishing up giving me topics. Is this it? Is this it, Lindsay? Alton Towers Resort? Is this a Satan-themed park? Oh my goodness, look at that. That's freaky. The curse at Alton Manor. Let's see. I've never run across this stuff before. It's interesting. Curse at Alton Manor. Book now. If you'd like to participate in this evil adventure. Oh my goodness, look at this. We got the checkerboard floor and the pillars of Jachin and Boaz and the little girl with her eyes covered. Nice. It's so funny. You say there's hexes everywhere. By the way, good morning, Harvey Fry. Welcome. And Verum Venomous. And welcome. Yeah, I don't know. This is... Oh, there's the Wickerman theme park ride. Is this the one you're talking... Oh my gosh. Oh, that's really crazy, Lindsay. Why'd you go there, Lindsay? Shame on you. Shame on you. Let me get the chat, you guys, so he can see your chat here. Oh, goodness. Northbound, you have actually a question about Daniel 12:12. Some say it references the time frame for the little season as being 335 years. Can you speak on that? Yes, I can. let's see. Is Daniel 12:12 saying 335 years season? That is northbound. All right, we got 4 good topics now. So that's probably gonna take all our time unless someone gives us another one that might trump those, which can happen depending on how I'm feeling. So there's the topics at this point. Oh yeah, like an eagle. I'm sorry. I meant to. Why didn't I put that on the list? I thought I had that on the list. Like an eagle. I got yours. I'm sorry. It's way up here at the beginning. Politics for Christians. Should we vote? That's my bad, like an eagle. I don't know why. I thought it in my head and I didn't put it down. So sorry about that. We're there. We're good. All right. Woo, Squiffy Bear, good morning to you, ma'am. It's so nice to see you on there. Hope you're doing well. All right. Guys, I think we've got a lot of good topics. I'm excited. I think we will start with yours, like an eagle, politics for Christians. Should we vote? But before we do that, real quick, I just want to make a couple quick announcements. The first one is, let me do this and just hide the screen there so we're not, we keep our focus here. But yes, this week, if you didn't notice, I just released an interview with a lady named Hillary, and that was just posted on my site or my channel last night. It was a great interview. So enjoyed talking with Hillary. So you guys, if you haven't seen that, I do encourage you to watch that, listen to that interview. I had a ball doing it. And just so you know, there's more of that coming. There's more interviews in progress, being worked on, being scheduled out. And so I wanted to mention that because, again, like I'd mentioned before, I really would like for you guys to be as involved in what we're doing as I am. And so it would mean a lot to me for any of you who have testimonies, and not just your testimony of how you came to know or understand Christ and God, but anything else in your life. We've got a lot of people that have come out of some bad organizations, some groups, some cults, as actually Hillary herself had been involved some. So there's a lot of stuff like that, and that I know each of you have as part of your story that actually can help others of us. We're all going through different things. We're at different stages of this life, this journey, this process. And hopefully all of you are on the track towards God himself. That's what we want to be. But so your stories are important. And I've started to realize that I had a ball doing the one with Hillary, and I'm just excited about the fact that we as a group have a voice. We have potential for helping each other and for others that will just randomly come by the channel and they'll hit one video. They'll be like, that spoke to me. They might be looking for something specific. They hit it because you did a testimony online with that topic. And so I'm already getting great feedback from Hillary's interview, a lot of good things. And so I want to encourage you that if you have things that you might be willing to talk about that could help other believers, let me know. Get in touch with me. Bible Scribe website at bible-scribe.com on the screen there. The contact form that goes straight to my email. And man, it's just so cool to be able to connect like that. I'm having a ball. So I wanted to share that with you guys and just give you the opportunity to do the same thing that Hillary did this week. So that being said, the other thing, let's see, make sure I don't miss anything here. I did want to mention this. Like, I would literally be happy to and excited to do any sort of speaking engagement, either virtual or in person, with any church group or fellowship meeting that any of you have. So I wanted to open that availability to you guys. So travel would probably be okay as well to do that. So I wanted to make that mention that I would make myself available to do any kind of speaking engagement where I come and talk about a specific topic to a group, a fellowship group, or any other kind of group. And so just want to mention that availability. And it could be online. It could be you want to get a group of people together and want to go through a certain topic. So we could do a Zoom call together. You know, that kind of thing, I think at this point is super important. It's something I want to make myself available for. So please reach out if that is the case with you. You have a group or, a Sunday school group, a Bible group, a neighborhood group, a friend group, that you just want someone from the outside to come in and discuss a topic, introduce some things to people that they haven't been introduced to before, maybe start discussions. I feel like it's a strength of mine to be able to do that in a way that's not threatening. And so there it is. It's on the table. Please think about it. Consider how I might be able to do that for someone you know or some group you know. So yeah, Lindsay Ball, I'd come to England if I could. We could work on that. I don't know. Overseas is going to be more of a logistics problem than just like, a few hundred miles away. So we'll talk about it if you want that. If you want that to happen, we'll see. Maybe that would be a candidate for a Zoom call instead. So anyway, all right. I wanted to make that announcement there and just lay it out. Okay. So Perusia, I see you online. Thank you for joining this morning. Good morning. All right. So let's get into it. Let's start with this topic that like an eagle. By the way, like an eagle, thank you for joining this morning. I don't think I've seen your handle yet, and so I wanted to welcome you to the Bible Scribe live stream, Sunday morning gathering. Let me get this topic up on the screen for us. Politics for Christians. Should we vote? Now, I'm not going to bring up, obviously, any material for this, but all I can do here is give you my opinion, my perspective on this. So I've heard many perspectives, and even, of course, since I started this channel, a lot of perspectives on, Christians and their involvement in politics, ranging from Christians should be definitely in there, engaged, trying to make positive change, trying to get into politics, saying Christians should run for offices and should hold offices and should build the kingdom in the sense of overcoming the government with Christianity. So I've heard that perspective. And I've heard everything from that all the way ranging to you should not get involved in politics, that you should not vote, you should not participate because the system is corrupt or broken or materialistic and is not conducive to the kingdom of God. So I've heard all those perspectives. And my perspective falls somewhere in the middle, I think, of that. Because the first perspective, like I said, if Christians take over government and it becomes a theocracy, a rule by religious means, I don't know how I feel about that. Let's say Christians got full power over the whole government. And let's say even the Supreme Court was all Christians, and they agreed 100% with you, and all the all of the Congress and the Senate, they were all Christians. They all agreed with you. And they all started making laws that were right down the line Christian laws. So let's say they took I don't know, let's say they took a Christian law. Let's say they took tithing. Now, that's not something we all agree with necessarily, but let's say they took that and they make that a law and they start enforcing it. So they literally, the government will come in and take 10% out of your paycheck, every paycheck, and then send that to, I don't know, what would they send it to? A church denomination? A church organization? You get into really hairy territory there, really scary territory where you have a group, a religious group at the head of government that is making decisions on how to run a country. And so the problem of just the same problem that the Christian church has right now of so many diverging opinions, that would exist inside that government. And it would end up being a big fat mess because these Christians wouldn't agree with what the Christians in power were doing, and those wouldn't agree, and I probably wouldn't agree, and it would be a mess. So I will say that view of a theocracy where Christians are so involved in politics that they literally run the government, I don't think in the reality that we live in the world we live in, that would work. I really don't. I may be naive, but maybe in some idealistic world that could work. I just don't see how it would work correctly. So then there's the other aspect. There's this totally other extreme where Christians are like, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to have anything to do with government. I want nothing to do with government. Let's say tomorrow, every Christian, think about this. Tomorrow, every Christian ejects from politics. Every Christian. So you would have half of the government walk out. You would have no Christian ever voting ever again. You would immediately lose all of the conservative votes. There would never be another conservative likely in office because the Christian contingent had just ejected themselves from politics. So think about the outcome of that. After time, the corrupt, evil, liberal left would essentially grow and expand to rule the entire government and tell you and your family what to do. So if Christians eject completely from politics, doesn't the hand of Satan run rampant upon the earth? Doesn't it? And you can, I think, Squiffy Bear, to your point, I think this applies to the local level as well as the federal level. And I understand from a perspective, I've talked with people about this before, a perspective of, well, I'm a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. I'm a citizen of God's kingdom. I'm not a citizen of this earth. It's like, it's not my home. I'm going to be there someday with God. So this isn't my home. I shouldn't be concerned with it. Well, then who is fighting for good on earth? And politics being a control mechanism for countries and governments. If you and I aren't fighting for what's right inside those structures, inside those organizations, who is? Do you think that the drug cartels who are funded through our government, through dark projects and money laundering systems, through the intelligence agencies of our government to the drug cartels in South America, do you think that if we eject that will get any better ever? The human trafficking that comes across our borders, if we eject, does that ever get better? How many children will you allow to die every day because you never got involved? And how bad would that get if we all eject? If good people pull back, evil will run rampant. I mean, it's scary to me that we would take that position, because the logical outcome, the reasonable, rational outcome of those things is that evil runs rampant in this world. Is that what God made us for? Did God not make Adam and Eve, well, particularly Adam, humankind? He made us with a purpose, and that was to steward, as far as I understand it, to steward this world, to shepherd it, to be leaders. Of course, sin screwed that up for Adam and for all of us. But the original intention was not that we would allow this world to run into chaos. So, my perspective, considering those views and all the in-betweens, is that we should be involved in politics. To whatever level we can be involved in politics, we should be. And we should do it in a non-corrupt way. We should, if we want to, and we think we're going to be effective in running for an office, we should run for an office. And we should do it under the authority of Christ. And if we think that it will do some good for us to vote, we should vote. In fact, I feel as an American, because of how our country was set up, and I do believe that the setup of our government is a very good setup, probably the best in history. I believe as an American, it is really your duty to vote. And that's really the least any American can do. Now, just know that if I'm saying this rubs you the wrong way, I'm not mad at you if you have a different opinion. I'm not mad at you. I'm trying to encourage you this way, because I think this is the right way. I think that the least you can do is vote for people that you think are going to do good things, as opposed to people that are going to do bad things in our government. Then beyond that, I think that we have, every responsibility in this life, in this material world, to make this world as good as we can make it. And if I don't see how a Christian can take an opposing viewpoint where, no, I don't think my job is really to make government or politics as good as I can make it. Well, the reality is that stuff exists and you function within it whether you want to or not. Politics and government affects your life every day. You have a driver's license where you have agreed to pay the government money to license you to have a card to drive a vehicle. That is unconstitutional. And you have agreed also that if you get caught driving without that you will go to jail. Do you see? Do you realize that that's what we have done in America? We have agreed to allow ourselves to be unconstitutionally ruled by fascist government. I don't want to use the word fascist because there's so much connotation there, but dictatorial, tyrannical government. And so if we can't push against that as Christians, and I think that includes your vote, I think it includes your actions, it includes litigation, it includes a lot of things. And it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. We are at a point in history where this kind of thing is very hard and difficult, and everything's working against us right now. So I'm just saying, and Squiffy Bear, watch the chat closely, because I know that some of the things that are being said on the chat are probably gonna get shadow banned or whatever. I can't personally eject from the participation of politics and government and feel good about that. I can't do it. And I don't think Christians should feel good doing that. It's kind of like a neighborly love. Do you love your neighbor? Do you love your brother enough to keep the government from coming and taking his stuff away? Do you want to keep the government from coming and taking all of your stuff away and your family's sustenance and telling you what you should do with your children? At what point do you get involved? Is it after they come to your door and take your kids? When is the line drawn for you? I contend that if in past generations we had recognized what was happening in this country and attacked it at a political level with fervor, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. So that's my perspective. I hope that is, I don't know, I hope it helps you to hear what I think. I am a little bit of an aggressor. I'm a fighter. So I'm not going to roll over and wait for him to come to my door and to where I have to blow someone's head off with a shotgun to keep them from taking my children. But if it comes to that, it comes to that. I would much rather fight this in the political arena. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Oh, goodness. Oh, man. I'm getting riled up already on the first topic. Jeez. Northbound Believer, your comment there. After 2020, you realized it's fruitless to play a rigged game. We are in a special time right now where it is rigged beyond belief. Definitely. There's no doubt about it. But again, it's like if we... How do I explain this? Have you ever played in a sporting game? I used to play baseball all the time. You've ever played in a baseball game or seen a baseball game where the referee was calling bad calls? Did you quit and walk off the field? If our team had just quit and walk off the field, we lose. Whether the game is rigged or not. We lose immediately, as opposed to possibly overcoming the bad referee by shaming him in public via, our fans, yelling at him, whatever it is. If he makes a couple bad calls in a row and gets shamed, we may get some good calls after that. We may win the game, even though we had to overcome corruption and adversity and a bad referee. So I think, not to make light of your comment in a silly fashion, but I think it's a good parallel. Well, Northbound, you say bad calls is not the same as a rigged game. The whole game, meaning the whole government, is not rigged. You may feel that way, but the whole thing is not rigged. There are parts that work. There are parts that don't work. Just the parts that don't work are being emphasized right now. So I don't know. I know there's a lot of different views on this, but that's how I have to be. I have to fight. I cannot sit back while things like child sacrifice are happening. Children are being sacrificed. I could name the evils going on, but I don't think I need to do that. I just, if we just eject, more children die, more people die, more corruption occurs, more evil runs rampant. I can't do it. I will fight. I will fight till I die. So just checking through some comments there now. The whole government is too rigged. then I guess you better hope someone's out there fighting, or it will devolve into a satanic cult that envelops the world. Is that what you want? I guess we better fight. So, or we can go down in history as the one generation of Christians that gave up. Do we want to do that? The one generation of Christians that just gave up. Instead of going out in the streets preaching and being martyred for being bold, we get martyred because we sit in our homes until they come and kill our kids and kill us. To me, which is the better? I would rather go out and fight than wait. So I don't know. Deceptions are very far-reaching. That's true. And Come Alive, I don't really know what you mean about the American Civil War being a hoax, but maybe that's a topic for another time. I'm sure there's something I'm missing there. But Sandra Ferencik Cook, I hope I'm saying your name right. It's different than I'm used to. But Sandra, thank you for joining this morning. You say you asked God in 2020 what's going on, and you dreamt about Trump. It's interesting. Trump is a divisive figure. I support Trump, but that's me. Lindsay, you say, why do we need a government, though? Local church-run incentives would be the best. How would you... If you only had local churches, that works in a world where there's no evil. But in a world where, across the pond, there's an evil government that will destroy us, that will just come in and wipe us out if we are just local church bodies everywhere and there's no centralized government for defense. We don't live in a world where that works. As soon as you drop all your guard and you just have this idealistic, patristic society that's agrarian and we just love everybody, we'll get wiped out. You can't do that. It doesn't work in this fallen world. Mama chose joy. You agree it's corrupt from the top down. I agree that there is corruption from the top to the bottom, but I don't agree that everyone in the government is corrupt. We have whistleblowers coming out every day now, saying things about the Department of Defense, the Justice Department, the CIA. We've got whistleblowers coming out every day now. Do you think that there may be a groundswell happening? It's reaching this fevered pitch where almost every day someone else is coming out with information saying, I'm standing up for what's right. I'm standing up for what's right. I'm going to tell what has happened. At some point, when does that wave become too much for the corruption to hold back? People in the government doing good things, probably Christians, some of them. So what do you make of that? Did they eject? Did a CIA whistleblower who's like, I can't stand by and watch this anymore, he comes out, should he instead have said, nope, I'm done with this, I'm quitting, and I'm going to go home and work the farm and see what happens in this country? That's not going to work. It's not going to change anything. I mean, I think that the arguments I'm making, most of you can't argue against. Should the whistleblower who knows what the right thing is to do quit and go home instead of exposing the darkness? And no, they are exposing the darkness, thank God, and making change slowly but surely. So I don't know. Come Alive, you say, I have an awesome heart. You get it, but they're all snakes, every one. We'll see. Oh, goodness. We'll see, I guess. Squiffy Bear, you say you think we're going to have to rebuild the West because it's over. Maybe. I'm willing. Let's go. Let's do it. Stacia, what scriptural references are there for government? Whew. The only one that most people point to is, I mean, you could, of course, examine the whole Levitical law as some sort of government of God if you wanted to, but the main one is, I think it's Romans 12 or 13 verse 1, where it says you should obey the authorities, the governing authorities. Let me do that. I'll pull it up real quick just so you can see that, because this is the one everyone brings up. And it gets on my nerves really badly because of the way people use this. Not 12, it must be 13. Yep. Romans 13:1, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. He therefore who resists the power resists the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou not then be afraid of the power? The power, the authority. Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. He is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that does evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but for conscience sake. For this sake pay ye tribute also, meaning tribute was a thing paid to a government. When you went into their land, you would give a tribute to kind of say, like, I'm visiting your land, here's essentially a tax, like, for me to acknowledge you as the ruler of this land. For they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render therefore all their duties, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to fear, and honor to whom honor. Yep. I don't know what to say about this, but I do know that God would never contradict himself. So the one thing that I don't like is most people say when, for instance, the pandemic came along, there were a lot of Christians quoting this verse saying, well, you should mask, you should get the shot because you should be subject to the higher powers. A lot of them used this argument. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that we should subject ourselves to the authorities at such a level that it usurps the authority and obedience to God? No, I don't think that's true. I don't think God would, contradict himself. He would say instead, he probably would mean it, and this is Paul writing this, but it means that up until a point, you would subject yourselves to authority until it conflicted with God's commands. You can't, it's irrational and kind of lunatic to think that this thing that Paul wrote here would trump any of God's commands. Oh yeah, you should leave yourself subject to the government while the government is running drugs across the southern border and running human trafficking rings in different countries of the world and has bioterror labs, about 50 or so, throughout other countries of the world. Yeah, you should subject yourself to that. Great. Yeah, that's definitely what Paul meant here. I mean, come on, that's not even rational. Getting angry. Rrr. I need more coffee. Mm-hmm. All right. Done ranting now. I'm done ranting. Rafa Sieber, you say, how do you explain the instruction from God to Abraham to sacrifice his own son? I'm going to put that on as a topic for maybe next time, if that's all right with you, Rafa, since it came in a little late here. But I like that topic. I was reading about that recently, actually. All right. I want to be done with politics. Stacia, you agree? More coffee. Yes. Sandra, you said we should rebel. I don't know about that. I don't know. What does that mean? It has a personal meaning, but from a societal standpoint, it has a totally different meaning. So, I don't know. Interesting thought. Maybe we should have already done it. I don't know. Come alive. You see my passion and you love it. I get passionate. I do get passionate. Yeah, I don't want to talk about rebellion. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about it. Sorry. Maybe another time. What does that mean? What does that look like? I don't know. The federal agents watching this right now are probably going to get mad if we start that. So we are rebelling by being in Christ. Do you get that? That's right, Sandra. Stand with God. We are rebelling by having this live stream. By talking about God, by connecting as believers, we are rebelling. Isn't that beautiful? I don't know. I get a kick out of that. Okay. We're going to switch topics. If y'all want to take a pause, I'm going to do this topic, put it on the screen. And I literally, y'all made me want my coffee so bad. I'm going to go get coffee real quick. Okay? I'm going to get coffee right now. I'll be right back. Here it goes. Okay. Now we are set for at least another 10 minutes or so with this cup of coffee. Oh my gosh. You guys are awesome. This has been fun already. Whew. Oh boy. All right. Whew. All right, let's see. I'm catching up. You got a few comments here. All right. I'm going to leave those alone, I think. All right, let's go. Where did Cain's wife come from? Genesis 4:16 by Rick Bowser. So let's do this. Let's go to Genesis first and just look at that. Let's see here. There we go. Man, I got to get transition. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Let's go to Genesis 4:16. So your question, Rick, was, let me scroll back up to the chat where you did it. And where did Cain's wife come from? Genesis 4:16. I thought the only people in the world at that time were Adam, Eve, Cain, and the death of Abel. Yeah, part of the thing, Rick, here is that the Bible doesn't include all of that. It just doesn't include everything for all the people born at that time. So I have a couple places I can go to try to find it. I didn't have it, I don't have it prepared, so I have to kind of look for it. But yeah, there's, let's see if I can, let's go back to Genesis here, and we'll just read a little. Verse 16 here, as you'd said, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And into Enoch was born Irad, and Mahujael, and Methusael, and Lamech, and then Noah. So that's the patronage, the lineage from essentially Cain to Noah. But yeah, so you remember too the genealogies of these guys and their ages. Like, we're talking about people that Adam lived, I think, 930 years. Methuselah, or Methusael, as it's said here, but it's Methuselah. He lived 969, I believe. These guys lived a long time, and they had at least 50 to 100 years from their birth to when they had kids. So there's a lot of time here. This is 2 verses that goes through like 600 or 700 years of time at least, if not more. So you can't assume that there weren't other children happening throughout all this. There's tons of other kids happening. Yeah, so let me pull up this real quick. I'll pull up a genealogy. That's a place to start, at least. Genealogies, the genealogy maybe? I don't know. No, it's not going to be enough. Genealogy of Jesus, maybe. Oh, here we go. Bible genealogy trees. That's what I wanted. Yeah. This one, maybe? That doesn't have all the women. Doesn't have the women. See, a lot of times the genealogies only list the men. So that's not going to help. Here. That's Abraham and Esau. Sorry, I'm looking for one that's got what I'm looking for. Thought I had some of this. Genealogy of the nations. Genealogy of the nations. Not great. Let's see. Oh my goodness, they all just list the men. They only list the men, I swear. Cain, Abel, Noah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, not Tiamat. Thank you very much. Okay, this isn't going to help. So, sometimes live research doesn't work out as easily as you'd want it to. Oh, I just realized I have the chat stuck up at the top. So, let's do this instead. Let's go to the first book of Adam and Eve, because it talks about this stuff. So I'm gonna use my tool here to do that. I'm gonna go straight to that book, Book of Adam and Eve, and I'm gonna go daughter. So, first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 74, they, meaning Adam and Eve, lived on the earth working in order to keep their bodies in good health. And so they continued until the 9 months of Eve's pregnancy were over. The time drew near, and she said this stuff, she said this stuff. And God looked at his maidservant Eve, delivered her, she gave birth to her firstborn son, and with him a daughter. So it sounds almost like the first son, which would have been Seth, is that correct? And that he was a twin with a daughter. And that daughter named Lulua in this text. I think there's other names in different texts, but oh no, okay. This is Adam rejoiced at Eve's deliverance over the children she bore. And Adam ministered to Eve in the cave until 8 days, when they named the son Cain and the daughter Luluah. So Cain and Luluah apparently were twins. Okay. So there's that. And so here in chapter 75, Adam prepared an offering, and he and Eve offered it for their children, brought it to the altar that they had built. Where is it? So down here, Adam and Eve, washing themselves in the river of water, returned to the cave of treasures where they lived. They prayed and were blessed, went back to their cave. The children were born. Adam and Eve did this until the children had been weaned. After they were weaned, Adam made an offering for the souls of his children. 3 times a week, he made an offering for them. When the children were weaned, Eve again conceived, and her pregnancy came to term. She gave birth to another son and daughter. They named the son Abel and the daughter Achliah. So it sounds again like in this text, and I'm not saying this text is 100% absolutely that you should treat it as gospel, but it is a testimony. And they named this son and daughter twin combo, Abel and Achliah, etc. So there's these different children that Adam and Eve had that are not recorded in the Bible, because that time, it's just the passages in the Bible, it goes through so much time so fast. It just doesn't take time out to name daughters. For one thing, daughters, and you know this just because of the kind of patriarchal society, it's the daughters weren't seen as that important as far as genealogy. So in these ancient writings, when they're talking about especially 1,000 years of time frame, they're going through genealogies, they're just mentioning the men because that was how the name of the family was passed down. That was the heritage, is through the men. So it's just how it was. So let's see what this, first result says about Adam and Eve's children. And it has, this person who wrote this article has no knowledge of the other children, because this is what I kind of was going to say at the beginning, Rick Bowser. Like, if we take the Bible and say this is the only thing that is true, and it's the only thing that talks about, and everything that the Bible says is the only thing that exists, then we'd never know that Adam and Eve had any other children except Seth, Cain, and Abel. But they did. They had a few other children. So it's going to have to be where we go outside the scriptures to understand, to get some of those details, because God never told us that the Bible was all inclusive. Was there ever a verse where God said all of the, and it would have to be worded in such a strange way for it to even make the sense that I'm trying to say it. But is there ever a verse where God says, hey, all of those 66 writings that I'm going to, stitch together through history from all those writers, those encompass everything that exists, and nothing else outside those books exists? That would be ludicrous to say that. It's so wrong in so many ways. So I just would say, it's where in the case of Adam and Eve's children, we have to go outside of the Bible, outside of Genesis, to understand and see those little details. They're just not in the book of Genesis. So Rick Bowser, you say good explanation. Thank you. Okay, well, if I've answered that in any way whatsoever, I wish I had better, because if you search for things like this, Adam and Eve's children, and read through a few different of these, like, I don't know, the Wikipedia article here may have something. Genesis 5:4 says they had other sons and daughters. It doesn't mention any of them. So I bet digging through some of this stuff, we would find different things. This person says he thinks that they had at least 7 children. 7's an interesting number. But then this person answers saying they had more than 7, and I would assume they had many more than 7 because of the time they lived and the purpose God gave them on the earth, and just everything that happened. It feels like there was probably a lot of children that Adam and Eve had over time, not at the time they had Cain and Abel, but over time. So this guy does math, and he says, well, if it's 9 months per child and they lived 800 years or so, then they had also twins and 1 out of every 86 births. He says he thinks they could have had at least 1,011 children. That's great. It might be, but he says we can only speculate. Yeah, so there's just no writing that's going to record every one of their children. We don't have one, so I think that's great. That's great. That's fun stuff. So I guess we'll finish that topic now, and we'll move on. Rick, I hope that gives you a launch pad for more study on it. That's all I feel I can really offer right now. I wish I had the ability. I mean, if I studied into it more, I could find more of maybe a genealogical tree of the initial daughters and sons and how that plays out. But of course they intermarried because they're the only family on earth, right? So yeah. I'm so glad you guys talked me into getting that coffee. That's great. Lindsay Ball, Enoch and Elijah. Now, Lindsay, can you possibly, or someone, help me by finding the verse that says, no other man has ascended to heaven except for the Son of God, for Christ? That would be helpful, because that's what I'm going to try to find next, I think. Let's see here. Close other tabs. Let's get that up on the screen again. Maybe I can search for it in my tool here, find it a little easier. No man ascended. I found it. John 3:13. No man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. All right. Let's get the context of that a little bit, just so I know there's nothing else there that... this is Nicodemus. This is the born again, or born from above passage. Yep. Jesus says, verily, except a man be born from above, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And for those of you that don't know, I'm saying born from above because that's what the Greek says. It doesn't say born again. Okay, so down here, after Jesus has spoken to Nicodemus, he says, how can you not understand these things? He's talking about spiritual things. He tells Nicodemus, you got to be born from above, from heaven. You got to be born out of heaven, or born of spirit, to know the things I'm telling you. And he says, aren't you a master of Israel, a leader, and you don't know these things? He says, verily, we speak what we know, we testify what we've seen, we have not, and we receive not, ye receive not our witness. Meaning, this is Christ saying, I'm testifying to you of spiritual things, and I have been to Israel, and you're not receiving my witness. Do you see how Christ came as a witness for the spiritual things of heaven? He witnessed God. He testified of God and of spiritual things to Israel and to all who listened. He says, if I have told you earthly things and you believe not, how will you believe if I tell you of heavenly things? Then he says this, he says, and no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. So yes, he says that no man had ascended to heaven except he that came down, even the Son of Man. So the argument here, I think, Lindsay, is what you're alluding to, and that I've heard many times, is that Enoch couldn't have been taken alive to heaven because of this verse, and that Elijah couldn't have been taken alive to heaven because of this verse. And so that's the argument. Now let's examine very briefly. Let's do, oops. Oh, come on. Yeah, Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now, this is a statement that is one verse in the Bible, and as you may have seen in my video on Enoch, what did I call that video? It's not too long ago. I did a video on Enoch and his journey to the Antarctic is what I call the video, and that's kind of a clickbaity title because I'm not sure it's Antarctica. It was a place of snow and ice, but and that story is out of the book of Jasher, and it definitely says that God took him to heaven. Okay, it definitely says it. And other writings definitely say that Enoch was taken to heaven. And then there's Elijah, right? So let's search for Elijah. Chariot. Yep. So 2 Kings 2:11, it came to pass as they went on and talked that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, meaning I think Elijah and Elisha, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. So it definitely says Elijah went into heaven, right? So we have to reconcile this. It seems contradictory, doesn't it? So it seems like two men, Enoch and Elijah, even according to the Bible, were taken up without dying, and that this verse that we found in John 3, that it's Jesus saying, no man has ascended to heaven but he that came down, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. So I've learned a lot about Enoch and Elijah in the past few years. And this comes from reading a few different writings. Of course, the book of Enoch, I think books like Jubilees and Jasher's have included information. Jasher definitely includes Enoch information. But then when we read the Gospel of Nicodemus, I don't know if y'all remember much of my teaching or reading on that. The Gospel of Nicodemus is interesting. It says that, and of course the Gospel of Nicodemus is talking about the time when Christ had been crucified and was going to Hades to break down the prison gates and release the captives, the righteous who had been in Hades since the time of Adam, including Adam. And that writing says that in one section, it says literally that the two witnesses were Enoch and Elijah, and that they had been waiting in paradise, not in like the upper reaches of heaven, but in the Garden of Eden, essentially, which is it's above the firmament, but it's not in the highest levels of heaven. And that writing also says that at the time of essentially 70 AD, when all these occurrences and fulfillments of the prophets on the nation of Israel would be occurring, that they would be sent back and be killed. And that was the way in which they literally, and I just learned this, Lindsay, by the way, not too long ago, because I reread the Gospel of Nicodemus and saw that. And I'm like, wait a sec, that connects to everything else now. And it solves this problem of that no man would ascend to heaven except the Son of Man, Christ himself, which came down from heaven. He would go back up. Of course, that's the highest levels of heaven. Christ ascended to the throne. That's the 7th level of heaven. That is God's throne. It's the top of Mount Zion. It's all these different things. So this made me realize that maybe this is an explanation. I'm not saying 100% that I know this for a fact, and all these things, I haven't put all those puzzle pieces together 100%, but this is a way in which it solves the problem. Perhaps they were taken to this place we consider heaven, but is not the highest levels of heaven. They stayed in the Garden of Paradise, waiting for the Redeemer for all that time, because God had a special purpose for them, as the two witnesses who would come back and battle the beast, be killed, and then taken to heaven with the saints. So that to me is a solution to this conflict, this seeming contradiction. Because I agree, it sounds like a contradiction. There's a lot of ways you can interpret it. I don't know. Does that sit well with you at all? I don't know. To me, it kind of makes sense. But I have to admit that regardless of what John 3:13 says, Enoch and Elijah literally were taken up somewhere and didn't die at that time, at the time they were taken up. So those are factual accounts. And there's too many alternate accounts outside the Bible that also corroborate their being taken up. So I can't disregard that. And I also can't disregard Jesus saying no man had ascended to heaven except the Son of Man. So to me, it's like we got to figure out a way that contradiction can be resolved. And I just do my best in that way. To me, the Gospel of Nicodemus helps. Maybe that's a great explanation. I haven't fit all those puzzle pieces together yet as to if the two witnesses came back, then how is there any reference to that in history? That's a hard thing to pin down. We have Josephus, but of course 70 AD, we have a lot of interesting information that does match up with everything, but that one is one that I still have trouble matching. The two witnesses, when did they appear? Was it spiritual? Was it physical? Who did they fight? Did they fight the beast and his armies? That battle might have been the Battle of Megiddo that was spiritual and was not physical. So I don't know for sure. I just don't know for sure. If that's the worst answer ever, I'm going to leave it there. Cornelius, you say the word heaven is determined by context because it's a very general word. I agree with that statement. The word heaven, oranos, in the Bible in Greek is it can mean everything from the sky to the first, second, third, fourth, fifth level, sixth, seventh level of heaven. So anyway, yeah, I agree there. It's not as specific as it could be. Whew. All right. Where are we time-wise? Ooh, we're pretty good on time. So let's see about our next topic. Oh, we've got two more topics. I'm scared we're not going to make it, but we'll try. Is Satan already in the lake of fire? Superfluity of naughtiness. All right. I don't even want to know, Superfluity, how you came up with that name. I don't want to know. All right. Is Satan in the lake of fire? Let me get that. There's going to be a lot of speculation on this one, I think. A lot of speculation. Is Satan in the lake of fire? Okay. Is Satan in the lake of fire? Let's first go to the passage that talks about that. Let's do that. Let's go to that passage. That would be Revelation chapter 20. How many times have I read Revelation chapter 20? Oh my goodness. Many times. It's great. Okay. Here we go. And in verse 7, when the 1,000 years had expired, Satan would be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them to battle. The number of whom is the sand of the sea, is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, the land, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them, so that refers back to verse 7. Satan would be loosed out of his prison and would go out to deceive the nations. Satan here is equivalent with the devil. The devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. So just awareness for everyone on the call, the lake of fire and brimstone is a specific place in the lowest levels of Hades. It is a literal place where there is a lake and a river of fire. And it's not where everyone who dies goes, nor has everyone who needs to go there already been put there, but it is there and it is real. It is apparently either for the complete destruction of souls and spirits, or possibly for an eternal torment, although I waffle between the two as to which is actually true. It seems like if you go to Hades and you're tormented, and then at the end of the judgment, you're thrown in the lake of fire, it seems like there's a purpose for that. Like it might be destruction at that point. Just saying, I'm not 100% sold on eternal torment forever in the lake of fire. It might be an absolute destruction. So I'm just laying that out there. Okay, so this does say that after the 1,000 years is expired, Satan would be loosed and would deceive nations. There would be a huge battle, and that God would win that battle, and that the devil, Satan, would be cast in the lake of fire. So the question is, number one, do you believe that? Because let's assume we all believe that's true, that sequence of events has or will happen. And then number two, are we in the time frame in which it is before he is cast in the lake of fire, or is it after? Okay, that's the question we really want to answer. So I guess I would have to say the question from you, Superfluity, and I'm going to scroll back up to that question because you had some other, yeah. Is it possible, you said here, there, I got it on the screen there, but is it possible the Satan of the Old and New Testament has been cast in the lake of fire already, and that we are now dealing with other new demons, Satan's evil forces? So for one thing, other demons, new Satans, new evil forces, where is that in Scripture? I would have to ask that just off the bat from a fundamental standpoint. I have no reference for that in Scripture. Now, I do have reference that there are demons and there are bad guys. There are evil spiritual forces in dark places, dominions, principalities, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have much prophecy that tells me there will be, after the Satan is cast into the lake of fire, this devil, Satan, the deceiver that deceives the nations, after he's cast in the lake of fire, there is no prophecy anywhere that says then there will be new demons, new principalities, new dominions that will wreak havoc on the earth. So I, from that standpoint at least, cannot say I have any biblical reference for that. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying I don't have any biblical reference. So let's mention that and move on to actually try and answer the question, are we in the time period before Satan is cast in the lake of fire? So I think based on our understanding of 70 AD, starting really with Christ and his ministry, his death and resurrection, the times where he said he was coming back, the 40 years, which is some crazy coincidence that was exactly 40 years between his resurrection and the time when Jerusalem was destroyed. He came back in the clouds in judgment. Some kind of crazy. Just like the 40 years in the wilderness before they came in the promised land. 40 years before Christ came back and the saints went to the promised kingdom. Crazy, huh? Crazy how that works. So there's that. So I think by that we understand that 70 AD was the time when the judgments talked about in Revelation would happen against the Jewish nation. The reaper angels reaping in fire. The winepress of the wrath of God was crushed. They were crushed like grapes. The wicked Israelites went down to hell. They went down to Hades. In fact, I believe it talks about, again, the lake of fire in regards to that event. But The Bible and the other Christian writings, Gospel of Nicodemus is one. Other writings talk about Satan being chained in the pit at that time. It's all in connection with itself. So that seems to be, and we probably would agree that that's the time when Satan was chained in the pit and was bound, as Revelation 20 says in verse 1, right? Well, verse 2. The angel came down from heaven, had the key to the bottomless pit, a great chain. He laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil, Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. In fact, there's another writing called the Discourse on Abaddon or the Gospel of Bartholomew. I can't remember which one. One of those two. Actually, it's the Questions of Bartholomew, the Gospel of Bartholomew, where the apostles ask God, I think it's Paul, or one of the apostles asked God to see Satan. And he sees him, he's bound in chains. Christ answers him and says, yes, I'll allow it, but you must be strengthened because it will kill you to look upon him. He has the angels bring forth Satan with his chains and show him to this apostle. And that was written, it was a Christian writing after the time of Christ. They agreed he was in chains at the time. So if 70 AD literally was the time when Christ came in the clouds, waged war against the principalities, put down the power of the beast, and chained Satan in prison, then Revelation 20 now comes into play. It says he was chained for 1,000 years. Now, if you don't want to believe that it's 1,000 years, I've done videos on that. The word chilia is throughout all Greek writing the word for 1,000. It's not some ambiguous term that can mean thousands of thousands, which some people try to argue. It's not only that, it's said like 7 times in this passage the same way, chilia, 1,000 years. And in other passages in the New Testament and in Revelation, the word chilia used for 1,000 years, the same way. There's really no good argument that can make this not 1,000 years. But many full preterists will say that this 1,000 years is some ambiguous time frame where it just happened in a year's time, or it was the time period before he came, which I don't know how that could encroach on the 40 years that matches the Old Testament and matches the prophecies. And it's too conflicting then. It's all on top of itself. A lot of full preterist teachers will teach this 1,000 years just doesn't mean anything really. It's just a random time element that we can make mean whatever we want. Some of them make it mean 1 year. Some make it mean 40 years. Some make it mean forever because they just like the forever thought. Oh, it's 1,000. I'll just say it's forever and make that my thing. I don't agree with that. I can't agree with that. It's 1,000 years. So, in my view, if that's 1,000 years and it happened at 70 AD, now that's 1,000 years from that he was loosed. And then we're looking at how long is the short season after that? And could we possibly be in it? My personal opinion is, and this is where it's speculation because our chronologies and our timelines are most likely messed up. It's most likely not 2023 years since the time of Christ right now. I can't prove that to you. I can't show it to you. I can show you a lot of research and scholars that definitely think that's not the correct year. Some more so than others by 1,000 years or hundreds of years, or all this. But you have to deal with it yourself, I think. I think at some point it does come down to a personal decision. My perspective is that our timelines are messed up. And that being said, we are in the little season. Satan is loose, and he is literally breathing his final breath to try to destroy God's kingdom on earth. Meaning destroy the effects of the kingdom of heaven on earth. He is cornered. the snake is writhing and just fighting with all it has to try to finally bring about a one world, evil, satanic control mechanism or government that will eclipse, I'm using that word for a reason, eclipse the kingdom that was set up by the Son of God. And you can get this from hints in movies that are made by Satanists and movies that are made by Hollywood that show that their intent was for 9/11 to eclipse the work of the Son on the cross. It was to eclipse the setting up of the kingdom of God by setting up a kingdom on earth. And I know you guys might think I'm talking crazy now, and I don't really care. But I do believe the Satanists that are in some of the seats of power in the world intended for 9/11 to start a trickle-down effect that would give them control of the entire world. And that would allow Satan to eclipse God's kingdom with his own on earth. And that's what we're in the middle of the fight. It's the last fight, I believe, of humanity. I think this is the last fight of humanity. This is my personal perspective. I again, can't necessarily prove any of this to you. I could show you a lot of things that would probably make you think hard about it. But I would say this, superfluity, you have to reconcile that stuff for yourself. If you think that the 1,000 years is not 1,000 years, I think you would agree that 70 AD was the time when that started, when Satan was bound. So if the 1,000 years is not 1,000 years, or you think that we're literally living in 2023 since Christ, then you have to reconcile that. You know, maybe you do believe Satan is done away with now. But if Satan is done away with now, the problem I have with that is that Revelation connects that to the final judgment. Do you see? After he's cast in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet already were, because they were cast in at the time of Christ's coming in 70 AD. The beast and the false prophet were, okay? And that's in other places in Revelation. Because then he sees a great white throne and a judgment. And the small and the dead, the small and great, all the dead everywhere stand before God. And the books of life are opened up. All the books in heaven are opened up. Do you see that as something that's already happened? So to me, this is so interconnected that there's literally no way that Satan could have already been cast in the lake of fire, because these things would have started happening too. Unless we think there's some huge gap in time between the casting of Satan into the lake of fire and then the great white throne judgment. It seems that if God had defeated Satan on earth and cast him into the lake of fire, then the things we're now experiencing wouldn't be happening. And that the only thing left on earth would be for God to have the great white throne judgment, where all the dead are. It's like this gambit, this whole folly of the material world has now been completed. Satan has been done away with. What other purpose would there be for that to continue except for God to take all the dead, judge them, bring the ones who were his to reign in heaven with him and fulfill the purpose for which he originally created mankind? So to me, all that connects. It all makes sense. I can't picture an argument in which the 1,000 years doesn't mean what it means, and that Satan is already in the lake of fire, but none of these other things have happened. There's too many problems to me with that argument, but I would be willing to listen to any evidence that anyone might have, and I've probably missed a lot of it in the comments as I've been talking, but that's really where I stand on that. I hope that's helpful for everyone to think about, because that's where I come down on it, and I hope that helps. By the way, Laura Masood, welcome this morning. I didn't get to say hi to you. C. Jones, welcome. Tomcat, a few of you slipped in. Trinity 88, I'm glad to see you guys. by the way. So anyway, all right, let's see. What did we do here? We took up all our time. We took an hour and a half, and we didn't get to, but we're going to do it anyway. Northbound Believer, you're next. We're going to do your topic really quick. Daniel 12:12, because I don't think it'll take long. Let's see what Daniel 12:12 says. You asked, Daniel 12:12. So you asked, is Daniel 12:12 saying, what did you ask? I'm going to go back in the chat and make sure I get all. I boiled it down, but I kind of want to say what northbound, let's see. Oh, I can't even find it for some reason. What's wrong with me? Well, let's just go with it. I mean, I get what we're doing. So is Daniel 12:12 saying that there's this season of 335 years? And so let's read Daniel 12:12. Blessed is he that waits. And I didn't put it on the screen, so let's do that. Firefox. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1,305 and 30 days. 1,305 and 30. So isn't this 1,335? Man, I really want to find what you originally said, northbound. It's interesting. I can't see it. I think that you put it on at the very beginning, and for some reason I can't see it now. I should have probably just copied your whole statement there. Yeah. Let's look at the whole chapter together, and then I think it'll give us some help. The time Michael shall stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people. There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, and even to that time thy people shall be delivered. Every one that shall be found written in the book. Ooh, the 144,000, those who were written in the book from the children of Israel. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall wake. That's the resurrection. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. Those are the saints that reign with Christ. Do you see how all this connects? And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Those that preach the gospel of Christ will be as stars forever and ever. It's beautiful. I love this. But Daniel, shut up the words and seal this book. Even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So Daniel was to shut up this prophecy, seal it for a time future. I wonder too, they had the seal rings. They would put in wax the stamp of their seal on. I wonder if he could also stamp in that seal, like, do not open until, I don't know how they calculated their dates at that point, but, do not open till this time. That's an interesting thought. It might have been like that. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river and that side of the bank of the river. One said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, which he held in his right hand to the left hand of heaven, and swear by him that lives forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. What time period is he talking about? He's talking about the tribulation time period in, I hate using that word. It's so bloated, tribulation, but this time of trouble that he talks about in verse 1. This time of trouble would last a time, times and a half, 3.5 years, we could speculate, correct? And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things would be finished. And I heard, but I didn't understand. Then I said, Lord, what shall be the end of these things? He said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end, the time of this trouble. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. Oh, those words are so pertinent to the first century, to what happened between Christ's ascension and the time of 70 AD. This is exactly what happened. I mean, coming back to this, it's been a while since I read Daniel. It's so pertinent. It's so applicable. It matches perfectly. But the wicked will do wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. And from that time, the daily sacrifice would be taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate would be set up. The abomination that made desolate in Luke is the armies of Rome coming into the city. It's an abomination. They desolate the city. There will be 1,290 days. That's exactly 3.5 years in the Hebrew calendar, by the way. It's so perfect. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1,335 days. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. So Lindsay, is it Lindsay that, no, is Northbound. To me, this verse 12 is so couched in this prophecy of the time of Christ in 70 AD. So couched in it and so connected that you cannot take the 1,335 days out and say that it's a different time period. I believe in the context here, it overlaps and includes it's essentially saying from the time the daily sacrifice would be taken and the abomination that makes desolate is set up, there would be 1,290 days. That's a 3.5 year period. But if you not only get past that, then you come to the 1,335th day, then that would be something. Essentially, he's saying if you make it past that, that is the end. But go thou way until the end is, for you shall rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. He's essentially telling you how to get through that time period. If you can get past the 1290 and then even to the 1335 year mark, you're out of it. It's done. It's over, and you will rest. You will stand in your lot at the end of those days. So I think that to me is how I interpret that time period, the 1,335 there in verse 12. Just don't try to separate that out from the rest of everything happening there. It's all too integrated. It's completely integrated. We can't do that. So I think in reference to your original question, I think that answers it, at least from my perspective on what's here in the passage. So I hope that helps. At least gives you more info, helps you think about it maybe in a different way, maybe in the same way. All right. Well, that is the topics, guys. That's the topics. The topics. You guys are awesome. Trinity 88, thanks for marketing for Bible Scribe. Hit the thumbs up. Do it. Do it. Yeah, I mean, do what you feel is right. I would appreciate any kind of, telling other people about the channel. Any kind of marketing you guys want to do for me, I appreciate that. I haven't focused heavily on marketing for the channel because I felt like, in a way, this is God doing something, not me doing something. So for me to go out and just rah, come to Bible Scribe, I don't know. I just really haven't gotten on board with that. I do feel, and I said it in the interview video I did with Hillary this week, which you can watch online. I said to her, and I believe it more every day, that every single one of you, God has brought here for a reason. And it may be for the person next to you in the chat. It may be for my well-being, for you to help me. It may be for me to help you. there's a reason we're all here, and it's very special. And to me, that's not a marketable thing. It's that kind of organic growth of you guys maybe telling people or just spreading the word organically, talking about things you're learning. And there's this guy, Bible Scribe, we're all learning the same things. Why don't we talk about it? That's cool to me. If you want to like, you want a thumbs up, subscribe, alerts, whatever you want to do, that's all fine too. I put it in God's hands, and I appreciate you all. I thank you so much for being a part. I hope this has been a fun morning for you, gotten your new week started. So I appreciate you. And man, I think we did good topics today. I think feels like we went through a lot at lightning speed. I always get to the end of these and I'm like, man, whoo, we did a lot. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Stay safe. Fight the good fight. God bless. Take care.